Hey, 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 hey.
Hey.
It's the haters ball, baby.
Shame.
He will go down as a legend right from the jump if
Build
somehow.
a statue. Build it.
Oh
Just
my
right now.
gosh.
Don't expect Dan Lanning to show any mercy, man. This is one of those things where he'll try to put as many
100 points on us.
Yeah, I mean, he will if he can.
And there's a massive X factor.
All right, dog fans, before we hop into the show, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, and we appreciate the support. Thanks to our sponsor, Simply Seattle, we'll be picking out one lucky new subscriber to win free Washington Huskies t-shirt and hat. To enter, just subscribe, drop a comment below letting us know that you've done it. You can be out there flexing that new Husky drip, that new Husky swag in no time. Plus, don't forget to check out Simply Seattle's QR code at the bottom of the screen, which will take you directly to their website for all your Washington Husky apparel needs. Good luck. Go Dogs. Thank you for everything.
I'm your host, Mike Flaunt. It's hate week, everybody. We're going into Autzen. I got my guys Izzo and Noah with me, two guys that hate the Ducks just as much as I do. Fellas, how are we feeling going into this game?
Hey.
Hey.
It's the haters ball, baby.
Shame. Can the Dogs get a win on the road? I mean, can we do it? Like, wouldn't that just be, I know, wouldn't it just be sweet? And I mean, it's last year was one of those games where you looked at it and the Dogs were elite. I think Oregon was like, right on that cusp of being elite. They just couldn't, kind of get over the Michael Penix and the Mighty Dogs last year. But I mean, this year it's different, man. And can Dan Lanning finally get that, get on the winning side of this rivalry, man? He's 0-3. This game being at Autzen, it's a little bit exciting, man. I'm never scared, man, but it's one of those games you kind of think about, and it's like, I will say this: if this game gets out of hand for the Dogs, and that Oregon machine starts rolling, dude, don't expect Dan Lanning to show any mercy, man. This is one of those things where he'll try to put as many
100 points on us.
Yeah, I mean, he will if he can, for sure. But man, I do think there's there's roads to sneak one out, and sometimes people think coming off a bye, you're like, oh, we're rested now, and everybody wants to say we played 8 straight, Oregon played 8 straight weeks of, smash mouth football, I mean, this is just, it's finally got got a week off to rest and recover. But you know what, a lot of times you come off that bye and you're a little lackadaisical, and don't think that Jedd Fisch ain't got these boys ready to go. Come on, Dogs. Is what you got for us, baby?
There's a lot to lose for them, and we could play spoilers, and we haven't been in that position for a little bit, and I would love to do so. And there's a massive X factor. Like, as we go into this game, everybody knows what this X factor is. It's Damon Williams, but it makes it really, like, none of us know. You can't accurately project how this game is going to go because none of us know how effective he's going to be. You can't just look at last week and be like, projected exactly the same, that type of thing. You're going to have to guess, and to guess on how a game will end up without knowing, with the X factor being starting quarterback of one of the teams, and it could go like the range of outcomes is massive. So I just wanted to point that out, that like our pathway exists. We're putting a lot of weight and pressure on that kid. I don't think there's a lot of expectations that the Huskies are going to go into Autzen and beat the number 1 team in the country. That said, the pathway that exists for us is through that kid. And so whether that's fair or not fair, he's 19 years old, and we just got to view it through that lens. If it falters and it doesn't work out, he's not getting lambasted, but boy, he will go down as a legend right from the jump. If
Build a statue, build it.
Oh my
right now.
gosh.
Yep. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, is that there's no pressure. For the Dogs, there's literally zero pressure. Nobody in America, even maybe us, expect them to win. So without that, and Dan Lanning has hella pressure. Like, he's got to get it done.
No, it's true. I mean, I'm sure they feel some pressure, and if they're not feeling it now when they get in there, and that crowd is going to be super friggin' loud, they'll feel it when they get there. So, but they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this road game. We're 0-5 on the road. Those are things that we already know, but yeah, the expectations are low in terms of how this game will, play, but we could play big time spoilers. So,
dude, when you, Izzo, did you guys see that? Did you see they said Max McCree's going to be back this week? So we'll have the opportunity to to play him if need be.
Interesting.
This is a question we've kind of asked ourselves for, the last couple weeks, was with the whole Willie Rowe, who do you really think gives you the best opportunity to win the game? But when you think about this game and how it kind of plays out, I think man, this is going to be hard to say, but I don't know if I see a pathway, like a shock factor, shock value with Will Rogers. I think DeMond gives you that, like, dude, we could sneak one with him at the helm because he can do enough like broken plays to extend a drive. I just think he gives you that. And so when I've asked that question, like, can you win the game better with DeMond or Will Rogers? Man, this is a game where just that defense sets up so well, Oregon's, that I think you have to hit them with something they haven't seen, because I think Will kind of doesn't give that to you.
You're like how you sustain drives in this. You have to be able to sustain drives against Oregon's defense.
Yep.
And that means converting on third down. And who do you think provides the defense with the most amount to think about on third down? It's DeMond Williams.
Yep.
So totally agreed. Yeah, this game's gonna be one in the trenches, man. But DeMond can lighten that load for UW big time. Now, if we get down there, we got to convert. We can't miss field goals in this game. Every time you get into the red zone, and I believe the pathway exists for us to travel, get the football moving between the 25s. But when you get down there, we have to be 100% down there. There is no room for error.
I know when I was watching the film, a lot of the times they look like a machine, like the offense just starts humming and it's hard to stop. But when I watched the Wisconsin game, you saw the defense really throw a wrench in that and be able to stop them, not let them drive the ball all over them. You guys ready? We've gone over
Let's
the high
go,
level
baby.
thoughts.
Come on, man.
Let's get into it, baby.
To this actual game. So if we watched the Oregon offense, they got a lefty at quarterback, makes big plays. He's got over 3,000 yards. He's also running the ball as well. He's got a bunch of touchdowns. How do we see the UW's defense being able to actually stop this?
When I look at this Oregon offense, man, I think it's pretty simple. They want to run the rock. That's kind of been Washington's kryptonite, especially with Javon Parker going out, kind of getting that injury, Durfee being out, all year. He's been one of our better run stuffers on the edge. What does that look like if we can get a Durfee back? Can we make them one-dimensional? And people say, like, are you really going to be able to stop Oregon's run? I'm not so much worried about that, but it's being able to keep things in front of us. We did that so well against UCLA. And what did we do? We tackled an open space. Over time, it says, hey, we'll let you run 10 play drives. We'll let you run 11 play drives, but we have to make those tackles in front of you. And what's one of the big things with Dillon Gabriel we've seen? He gets into the red zone. Do you know he leads Power 5 football with 6 interceptions in the red zone, number 1 in college football. So it's like, yeah, so that's the big piece is he's prone to make mistakes when he gets in the red zone. He'll get them to the red zone, early, often, and almost all game. But can we make them one-dimensional enough to where Stevie B can dial up some pressures? I want to see, hey, here's one thing I want to see. I got a matchup. I'll come back to it after Izzo goes. But here's one thing I want to see with this defensive line. What is a Deuce Davis and like a Durfee on the edge? If they can both play, you can start running some loops and some scoops inside and really get some twists and just some movement. And let's see with some of these offensive linemen. Let's see how good this Oregon offensive lineman really is. I saw on the Twitter timeline, they were like, man, Oregon, UW's going to try to take some cheap stuff on Dillon Gabriel. And one of the Oregon, big Twitter names was like, they won't even get to him. Dude, Deuce Davis, Durfee, Ward, boy, you got a mission, boys. Get at Dillon Gabriel, man. Hit him hard, hit him often. That dude will fold, man. So
yeah,
that was the equation for Wisconsin a week ago. Kept everything in front of them, and they were able to get pressure on Dillon Gabriel and make him make bad decisions, especially in the red zone. Izzo, what about you?
Yeah, I want to see us attack the right side of the offensive line. I think if there's any prone place on that offensive line, it's the right side. It's Johnny Cornelius. They were mixing around Dave Iuli and Kavika Rogers last week, and Wisconsin gave him fits by throwing different run blitz packages at him. And I think that's going to be the key for Washington is disrupting the rhythm of Dillon Gabriel, especially as like Noah's saying, as you get into the red zone. It's a great stat. Didn't know that that he's thrown that many picks in the red zone. But look, man, I mean, with the emergence of Deuce Davis, that's another. We're talking about X factors to start this podcast off. I mean, that's another one. I don't think anybody is expecting him to touch the quarterback 7 times on 14 snaps last week, and he looks the part. It's not fugazi. Now, Wisconsin's front there's a difference in size. Like they got big hog mollies on that defensive line. Not that we don't, but it's just a different type of it's a different type of pass rush. And they struggled with it on the right side of the offensive line. And what it does is it moves Gabriel out of his spot and keeps him uncomfortable. And because of his height, he has to throw in windows. His offensive line on the left side is a pretty, bunch of big dudes, obviously. They're offensive linemen, but it forces him to hit these windows. And you'll see him where he's waiting for guys to get inside of his window in between offensive linemen, and then he's hitting them on trying to kind of time it out. And on one of the picks in the red zone that he threw, I believe there was just one where it got tipped up, pass was behind him, tipped up, and then intercepted. That's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a big game for Stevie B because Oregon's rushing attack is consistent. It's good. It's fast. It's north and south. They run. It's not just speed. Jordan James runs hard. He's an NFL back one day. So I think the areas of opportunity to exploit is with Dillon Gabriel. And I know he's efficient. And I know they're going to try to keep him from being in positions where he has to force something in there. But at some point, that's got to give. You can't just run the rock 90% of the time.
So you're saying that they got to force the pass game. They got to make Dillon Gabriel be the one to beat them, not the running game. And I was curious because I was going to ask this. Tez Johnson is back for this game, and they haven't had him the last, 3 or 4 weeks.
Is that for sure? He's back.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, at least that's what he put on his Twitter. It could be a fugazi, it could be something to get us, looking. But how do we? I mean, our secondary could really be tested in this game because all 3 of those receivers are good, and then they got the big tight end as well, and the backs coming out of the backfield. There's a lot of options, and then Dillon Gabriel can also tuck it and run.
Yeah, I would like to see us be a little bit more bend don't break than we have typically.
Yeah, because you see our corners with a lot of press. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah,
it's all year they're in man-to-man with one single high safety.
It's also a matter of if our defense can keep these guys under 24 points, I think we have a really good chance at being there at the very end.
Yeah.
If it's a 30-point game, I think we're done. I don't think we have a chance.
Yeah, man. Last year, do you guys remember we talked a little bit about, and I didn't do this for every game, but I always like to find like a matchup, especially like a defensive lineman versus an offensive lineman. And I found one this year. And this is where I think it can be exposed. And Izza, you kind of already hit this, is I think David Iuli, this is going to be his second, I think, start, maybe third. But dude, both of the games that he's played significant time coming off that toe injury, he's graded out in the mid-50s. And on his last game, he graded out in the 30s on pass blocking. And I want to see him go against the 5th-year senior Sebastian Valdez, man.
Is he on the right or left side?
Right.
So he's played right. He played a little bit of left, I think, in the early game. But he's been starting, I think, at the right guard position. But I thought he was playing left guard. Doesn't matter. He's playing interior offensive line. But that is a position that I really want to see him. I want to see Sebastian Valdez and David Iuli go at it, man. Because I think Sebastian Valdez, he's a grown ass man, and I think he can get up in David Iuli, man. I really do, especially coming off that toe injury. But one thing I want to make sure we don't not speak on is Zoe, Carson Bruner, and Cam Fab. What's the same thing about all 3 of those guys? Dogs, bro.
This is their last
last game.
Their last games.
Last game besides the bowl game. Do not think that those guys won't go out just with absolute hair on fire, looking to take some dude's head off. I kind of like the Dogs defense to make some plays, and I think they're going to have to. I think if you're going to go into Autzen and be in this game late, have an opportunity to sneak it out, I think you're going to need 2 turnovers in this game. You're going to need 3 turnovers, maybe a big special teams play, but something like that where you just kind of hang around long enough to where we can sneak something out against these guys. And I think it all starts with the defense.
Yeah. I brought up that right side. I was asking specifically because when you watch the Wisconsin film, though, that right tackle was having a tough time as well.
Yeah, Cornelius.
Yeah. And so the right tackle and then also a right guard kind of makes me see, do you see Stevie B attacking that? Because like you guys said, he likes to find the weakness and then do everything he can do to exploit it, whether it's overloading the side or blitzing or whatever.
And that was the rotation that I was talking about with Dave Iuli and Kavika Rogers that you're probably going to try to go after. Now, if you're Oregon's offense, to just right to what Noah's talking about with this matchup between their rotational guard, whether that be right or left, doesn't really matter, versus like a Valdez or something like that. I think you're going to need to mix it up because you want to play offense on defense and have them adjust to your scheme. Because if I'm Oregon, what I'm going to try to do in this game is run it right down our throat.
Yep.
You know what's crazy? Is Izzo's completely correct. Like that's exactly what they're going to try to do. And we know what Stevie B is going to do. We know he's going to bring that extra guy in the box. He's going to overload certain sides. I'm just curious what that does to our DBs then at that point, because you watched it on a few plays last week, specifically, or not last week, 2 weeks ago against UCLA. Prysock got exposed on a couple plays, getting beat over the top where the guy just missed the throw. It should have been a touchdown. I'm worried. Like I said, I don't know if we've had anybody really test us over the top this year, and I'm very curious to see how we respond because I think you're right. I think we're going to try to stop the run, and they're going to go to the pass, and it's going to be that's going to be the battle that we end up watching for most of the night. At least that's what I
mean. Let me ask you this way. I mean, who on this Oregon offense over the top like really scares you? I mean, I know who I think, but who do you guys think? Like, who scares you?
I think all three of their receivers can go over the top. If you look, they all got speed, and then they got the big tight end too.
The reason why I asked that question the way I did is because when I look at their offense from a passing attack, I mean, like, Tez Johnson, he's like that possession receiver. He wants to run those like crossing routes, quick little out routes. They want to run the bubble screen to Tez and get him going. I mean, I think that's actually how he got hurt on, getting tackled out of bounds. But then they want to go to Trayshawn Holden. He doesn't have like dynamite speed. He's a 4.5, 4.5, 4.6 type guy. And he's big.
He's averaging 15 for a carry.
For sure.
15.
I hear that. No, absolutely. But who scares me over the top, and you saw him absolutely expose the Ohio State cornerbacks, that's Evan Stewart. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of what Gabriel to me is. Yes, he's got the arm, got the quick little feet, but he's small, man. He's 5'8". I mean, but Evan Stewart is like they lull you to sleep. Run game, crossing route to Tez. Oh, hit Terrence first and crossing route, little bubble screen to Tez, and then boom over the top to Evan Stewart. At least that's when I watch them. That is if you're saying that this offense kind of scares me, that's what scares me about the offense is Evan Stewart hitting you for a 60-yard bomb over the top. So that's why I asked the question the way I did.
Who do you think they put on him? If you got three corners on the field, who do you want to see guarding him?
You got to go with Prysock on him and the reason why I say that is because I think you have to go Thad on. If you're telling me Tez is back, Tez Johnson's back, that quick little scout receiver, the way he is, he can release. That's one of probably his best qualities. He releases so well. I think you got to go Thad on him. Just because of the quick little burst, So I think you got to go. I mean, in a perfect scenario, I would like to see Prysock on Holden, Shaw on Stewart, and then go Thad on Tez Johnson. If I could go perfect scenario, but sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah. That's what I would do.
Okay. Because I think we're kind of sculpting out what this path looks like. We're talking about first stopping the run and forcing Dillon Gabriel to have to make the plays himself because we feel better about him trying to do it rather than Jordan James and the whole running backs and the whole stable of running backs they have. Is there anything else I'm missing on what you guys think to make that pathway to a victory for the defense is?
No, but I think the more we talk about that, honestly, bro, like I know that's why I was smiling when you were saying that, Mike, is I actually think that's how I think you beat them. I think you have to say, Dillon, if we're gonna win, I'm gonna make Dillon Gabriel beat us because I think their running game is that good with Jordan James. So I think it's like Dillon Gabriel. I think you've proven time in and time out that you are prone to make mistakes in bigger games. I know he has like the Red River shootouts, a couple wins, there, UCF, etc. But if I'm saying, how can I work my defense to have an opportunity to win this game? It's through making Dillon Gabriel beat us.
Yeah.
All
right. It's some combination of bend don't break and playing your game by throwing crazy blitzes at their offensive line. Hopefully Dan Lanning gets in his head because we're causing so much confusion.
Do you think Lanning learns from his I think it's like, isn't it like every game he's played against the Dogs, he's had some sort of like weird blunder? Yeah.
I mean, and he did last week. He was this close to giving away that game to Wisconsin when he faked the field goal and should have just kicked it. He put the ball in his kicker's hands. Yeah, I think what you're saying is actually completely right. If you want them to get emotional, you got to put pressure on them. And just like any opponent that might be on paper weaker, what you got to do is bring the fight to them. You got to force them to make dumb mistakes. And sometimes you're going to leave yourself exposed and we might get beat over the top, blitzing or something like that. But it's not getting gun shy, because if you put the pressure on them, that's when you're going to get the emotional decisions. That's when you're going to get in Lanning's head and be like, hey, you're going to lose another one to UW? Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So
yeah.
Anything else you guys want to cover on the Oregon offense, Washington defense before we switch it over?
No, other than just like focus on that right side of the offensive line. And I expect that they'll probably bring a tight end over the top and Ferguson to try to block. But Ferguson isn't necessarily like the best blocker in the world. But that's I would expect to see that.
Dude, he's so soft. I hope they keep him in the block. Look at that.
He's so soft. He's so soft. That's what we're hoping the Duckies in general are extremely soft, Charmin soft. All right. So we have the idea what we got to do on defense, but the whole other side of that equation is, what does Jedd Fisch in this offense do? We're talking, we think it's going to be Damon for most of the game, which I think is great. I think that creates a whole other option that it makes it so much harder for a defensive coordinator to adjust to. But do you guys feel like me where a lot of this is going to matter on how well our guy Damon can actually throw the ball?
We talked about it last week. From what we've seen in camp, he can throw the deep ball and stretch the field. Whether or not that is impacted by one of the loudest stadiums in the country, we will see, but the odds is yes, that will affect it. You're not necessarily seeking to bank on your 19-year-old freshman quarterback to beat teams over the top and on the number one team in the country in his second game, second lengthy period of time in a game. So that is, to answer your question in short, the answer is yes. If Jonah Coleman can set him up, and if he can go for 125, 150, I honestly think that we're in this game.
Yeah, agreed.
And so I think while it does matter whether or not that you can stretch the field with Damon throwing the ball deep, I think it more matters, that we're establishing a rhythm on offense and we're able to gash them and tire them out and convert, and set up Damon for success. We don't want a ton of 3rd and longs. We've got to be deliberate in every play.
I was going to say, what's crazy about that point is, about the run game is, you hear a lot about these, these defensive ends for Oregon. But man, I actually think their defense actually kind of starts up front with that big old Jamari Caldwell. He's like 6'3", 340, and the Derek Harmon. Yep. Yeah. And they're both transfers, Caldwell from Houston, Harmon from Michigan State. But man, it all starts up front. But what's interesting is they have these two big bodies, man, and our interior offensive line is gonna have a hell of a time. They're gonna have their hands full all game with them. But dude, they've given up. I mean, and believe me, I'm not saying that we have Ashton Jeanty in the backfield, but dude, they gave up 192 to Ashton Jeanty. That is crazy to me. I mean, in the sense of, you're telling me this is a national championship type defense, and you give up 192 to them. You end up giving quite a few yards up to Michigan. And I mean, it was just like one of those games where it's like they just allowed them to kind of once again stay in the games, get first downs, and but the X factor, in my opinion, is going to be the three linebackers. Man, they run that like Jack Mack and Money. That's what they call their positions. Jack Mack and Money. They're linebackers, and it's I think these guys are very vulnerable in the passing game. I think we can RPO their edges, and I don't think you want DeMond pushing the ball, 30, 40 yards down the field over and over again. But I think you can get, you can put these guys in these linebackers into some spots where you can get them in our passing game. I think you can get the ball to Latu, you can get the ball to Decker to Graf. I think you can put Boston in motion and get one of the linebackers to cover him. And I think that's where you can really start to expose these guys. But when you talk to Mon Williams, Izzo, do you think you might see a lot more RPO? Remember how I said last game, like, yeah, I think Jedd's got his own playbook for DeMond. I think this is a game where you just see a ton of RPO flair coming from him, because I think that's one of the big ways you can really like read these defensive ends, but then also have that ability to make passes out of it. That's kind of what I want to see.
Yeah. I know that they got to do something about Uyunglele because he showed up everywhere. Every time the defense needed a stop or a sack, he was the guy providing it. And it was, like I said, very conspicuous play if you watch especially the game last week or 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin, constantly making plays.
Dude, how about our boy Jabbar Muhammad getting a millie to go to Oregon to go play for the Devil?
I knew this was gonna come up. I was actually waiting for it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
I just want to know. I mean, like, I just want to know.
He's not a dog, so right now.
Yeah, screw him. I don't care. I don't care that he played on our national championship team. He's sold out for the dollar. I know he's only 5'8.5", so he's got to get his money now because he surely ain't playing in the league with that little body. But yeah, we talking today. But at the end of the day, I hope I want to see Denzel Boston get up in him a couple times, and I think he will. I think Denzel's going to get him over the top, and I think Denzel will get him on a couple comebacks too. I think Giles will get him too. I really do. I think Jabbar's in for a day because I think the dogs know that he turned his back on him.
I think the big physical wide receivers are actually going to have some opportunities against that secondary. I really do. Like Wisconsin doesn't have a big throwing offense, but when they were getting it to their big receiver and their tight end, he was just able to outbody them on some plays. The only big thing that stopped them was their quarterback really wasn't that good. He was like a worse Will Rogers.
So it looks like Lanning is being like facetious about whether or not Birch will play. It looks like Jordan Birch he's been out a total of 4 games and then come in spots. And Lanning's not tipping his hand as to whether or not he'll play. But I think what's safe to say is that if he does play, he's not at 100%.
Yeah, they brought in because he played against Maryland. Birch did, because remember, Birch was the one that did the fake punt. He ran for like 50 yards on a fake punt, but yeah, I think he has like a lingering ankle issue. Is kind of what's kept him out, because I think Marcus Harper, that's kind of been the guard that hasn't been able to play. That's why Dave Iuli's got some spot starts there.
Right.
So it's like, man, I mean, this defense. I'll tell you what, man. You go to like our lads, go look at their depth chart or whatever. I mean, man. What is their weak spot on this defense? I mean, maybe their linebackers maybe could be a little bit. I mean, I know Jeffrey Bossa last year in the Pac-12 championship. I know a lot of people were kind of calling for his head, going like, he doesn't make the impact plays you need, But I'll tell you, man, these guys, they're tough up and down. And like I said, our interior offensive line, they're gonna have to have a big day.
I mean, the whole offensive line, right? Like, if you could key in on one, I mean, not to take away from your point's valid. Like, if you could key on one area where there's the biggest mismatch, it's their defensive line versus our offensive line.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about what you're talking about with doing some sort of RPO. Like, you're going to have to do something different. Like, DeMond's going to have to get outside. That's why it does not make sense for Will Rogers in this game also, because you're going to, like, let's just call it what it is. Like, we're going to have to move out of that pocket.
They got way too much power up front. You're hella right. They got way too much power up front in both those edges. And then you got Harmon in the middle. Like, we saw what happened last week with TT Ali when he was playing against the UCLA kid who was a monster.
Yep.
I could see a lot of the same thing happening with Harmon is a beast. And
dude, Harmon just makes plays too. That's the thing about him. He makes plays. Like big players make big plays in big games, and that's Derek Harmon. I mean, if you guys remember in that Ohio State game, I think they went 3-and-out. Ohio State goes down, scores. They make Oregon, I think, go out 3-and-out again. It's something like that. Point's valid. He ends up with Ohio State getting the ball back, making a run. He ends up stripping that ball. You remember that? So they ended up getting the ball back and scoring and tying the game. But it was like it started to see like, oh man, Ohio State could kind of make this lead. But man, Derek Harmon, man, he just makes plays, dude.
Yeah, there's both those games. They're a play away each way from getting the loss. Like the Wisconsin game, they should have lost. Wisconsin gave them the game, kind of like we gave Wazoo the game in week 2 or 3. Yeah, like I said, you know what I was thinking, and I wanted to run this by you guys, see what y'all thought. We've seen it a little bit, but what would you think about utilizing, especially Jonah Coleman in the screen game a little bit more? Because when we talk about things that we need to do to slow down those edges, the screen game is big, and Jonah Coleman needs to have a big game to be able to open things up for Damon. And that could be in both the running and the passing game. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, you're going to have to do that. I mean, that's almost a foregone conclusion that you're going to have all the things that we talked about all year about going sideline to sideline and leveraging speed, to try to create separation and create yourself opportunities. You're going to have to do that because this is like the closest thing to the Penn State defensive line that we've played, right? And we know how that game went.
Yep.
So you're going to have to do that. And I think where that creates opportunity, Mike, is, and I told this to Noah before this week started, was that I hope that at practice we were practicing and focusing on what happens after your routes run, because that there's an opportunity there for where if Damon is extending a play, our guys have to find a way to get open, and that is set up by these little bubbles, right? And then focusing on keeping everything in front and really being aggressive, overly aggressive against Damon, and then he creates a play and busts a long run or a long throw. And that's going to be that has to happen to win this game. We are the 104th ranked team in third down conversion. We are the 103rd in red zone conversion.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So there's no, like, all the things that have to go perfect do have to go perfect for you to win this game. There can't be mistakes, and you're asking them for that, from a 19-year-old at Autzen Stadium when they're ranked number 1. After 3 straight, 2 in 1 year. So things got to go, not to harp on it too much, but to answer your question in short, Mike, yeah, that's got to happen.
I just think that's where you go back to the Damon Williams thing is, I mean, because it's like you ask a simple question, it's like, do we have the horses to win this game? And I think with Will Rogers, man, I don't think we do. But I think Damon gives you he gives you that straight up Clydesdale, bro. He gives you that young Philly who can win a game in the 7th race, down in Florida at the track. It's like, I mean, he gives you that ability to be that much more athletic. And I think that one thing about Damon is he's a gamer, dude. You guys remember him in the East-West Army All-American game?
Yep.
I mean, dude, he balled out in that game. And it's like, you need that type of mentality that, like, when I step on this field, I'm the best player here. And I think you get that with Damon. And man,
you're gonna need that confidence, man.
You do, man. And this is one thing I was going to ask you too. And I brought this up earlier with the seniors, that are coming back for their final regular season game as a dog. It's like, I know we understand this rivalry as longtime Husky fans, and I mean, you see it on Mikey's shirt. You got the Husky and the duck, man, and it's just. I mean, this is a bitter rivalry, and the last 3 games have only made it even more bitter. And I think, with the amount of transfers we've had coming into this team, 40 plus, it's like, do they truly understand the rivalry? But I think our guys, our Carson Bruners, our Cam Fabs, our Zoes, I think those types of guys, keeping them around, I think they'll teach them. They've taught these guys about how much we hate Oregon, because I think in a game like this, you have to have that, like, I don't ever like to say this as a Christian, man, but like, you got to have like that hate in your heart to really go out and beat these guys on the road, man. I really do. I think Oregon's that good. You need like that dog mentality to really beat these guys. Cause I think Oregon, dude, they're on a path, man. And you got to bring everything you got, man, to beat them. So
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. How sweet, even if they won the Natty, how sweet would it be to take this one from them on their way to that? It would tarnish the Natty for them going forward. They would, I mean, it would. Imagine if you won the Natty and you lost to your rival that's been hanging a Natty or two Natties over your head for all those years. And the 1 year you get there, they're like, you may have won the Natty, but you didn't beat us.
Oh my God, that'd be the most hilarious and most Washington, Oregon thing to happen ever.
It'd be beautiful.
I mean, Mike is a really quick. I'm going to ask you this, and I'll let you go. I mean, what do you think? I mean, what does it take? A multiple turnover game? I mean, what is the path for the Dogs to win a game like this?
Yes, you absolutely have to. You need 2 turnovers. You're going to have to. You need explosives and you need turnovers to win this game, and you have to convert. You have to be perfect in the red zone. You have to be 7 of 10 on third down, like that type of situation.
You got to muck it up a little bit too and make it ugly, I think, to win a game like this. Who would you rather see? Would you rather see Max McCree or would you rather go with Tafai on left tackle?
I think I'd rather see McCree because I trust that I don't think you're going to beat whoever, like, give up on the idea that whatever tackle we're going to put in front of their defensive edges, that you stand an opportunity there. Like, get the guy who's most comfortable with his feet and, getting into space.
I think you play it by ear too. I think you see, like, maybe you start McCree, and if he's struggling, then you put Tafai in. You do what you got to do to see who's the hot hand, because the pressure is going to come hard and it's going to come early. Yeah.
Who?
All right.
Are we about to get these predictions in, or what?
I was going to make sure. I was going to see if you guys have anything else you want to add before we move on to the most exciting 5 minutes in all of podcasting for UW.
This game is what it is, man. We're bouncing around trying to figure it out on the fly, as a piece of this too, because there's a lot of mismatches in Oregon's favor in this game, man, because of that defensive line that they got and who they have as X factors in Dillon Gabriel and Jordan James and Tez Johnson, and there's some star power there, man.
Yeah, man, you got to really quick, you got to remember this too, guys. What we had last year with all our guys coming back, dude, that's what these guys had this year. Yeah, they lost Nix, but they just reloaded with Gabriel. And remember, guys like Jordan Birch, guys like Tez Johnson, I mean, these guys all came back for another year. And so, like, a lot of these guys that you thought, these guys are probably going to the NFL. It's exactly what happened to UW going into last year. And so it's like one of those things where, you look at these teams and you compare and contrast. And last year, we all offseason, going into last year, we're like, Oregon, Oregon's better than UW. Oregon's better. Yeah, even we beat them. We beat them in the first game. Oregon's better than UW. They're a 9-point favorite in the Pac-12 championship. Then then we beat them again. But then you start looking at this game and you start like breaking it down as a fan and people who really try to like get into the numbers and get into like watching the game and like, the facts there. It's tough to see spots where you're like, man, we are better than them at this position, overall. We might have better players at certain positions, but when you're talking about like the full gamut of like that position, it's hard to find that on this year's team. Is it an impossible task? No, it's not. But there's a reason the FPI, I think, is like 89-11. I mean, it's gonna be a hell of a game, especially in Autzen, man. The place is gonna be nuts. And dude, they're coming for the jugular, man. I'm telling you right now, they are coming for the jugular.
Okay. Well, no, then this is what we're going to do, because I think we all kind of believe that Oregon is going to win this game. If you were betting money, I think all three of us would probably bet money on Oregon if we would do such a
I would actually take UW plus 19 if I was going to
plus the 19 plus. Well, let's get let's talk about but let's do it like this. Give me your prediction for your money prediction, and then give me your prediction with the pathway to victory for UW.
Oh, I like it.
Since we are homers.
All right.
And no, I'm going to start with you on this one.
All right. I think I've said it a couple times. I just don't think this year's UW team has the horses to stay 4 quarters with these guys. I think the pathway to beating them is you got to do it through Dillon Gabriel. I think the pathway through staying in this game is through Dillon Gabriel. I think Stevie B with 2 weeks actually gets a little bit more out of this team, this defense, than I think most pundits are probably giving us credit for. I think we lose this game 31-20. I think the game's closer than you think. I think there's probably like 24-20, maybe with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth. I think UW's kind of in it, and I think they get a late touchdown. We get an opportunity to maybe make a late score to kind of come back and put it in. But I think we end up getting beat 31-30. What did I say first? 31-20. I wrote
31-20. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 31-20. I think is the final. From a betting perspective, dude, dogs plus 19. I don't think Cam Fab. I don't think Zoe. I've said it, man. I don't think they let us. They let us get smoked. So,
what do you think the score is though? If UW was to win,
if UW was a win,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I think it'd have to be ugly, man. You know, like that that Wisconsin game, 16-13. Man, like 7. Man, you probably got to score a little bit against these guys. It's going to be like 26-24 dogs, something like that. 26-24 dogs.
All right, Izzo, give me your 2 because I know the first one's gonna hurt. Give me your money.
You just got clip chimped, by the way. No, somebody's gonna be like, look at Noah predicting. I'm not gonna fall for that, Mike.
Yeah.
This game is likely to come down to which team can execute at those high leverage moments, particularly on third down. Who is converting their third downs the most? That's not crazy, right? Who's getting, the most amount of conversions in the red zone? Particularly for UW, I think we're going to have to get linebackers chasing fast guys, chasing Jonah Coleman, chasing Giles Jackson. I don't want to see like a ton of deep balls to Jeremiah Hunter. I think we need to get crafty and creative and create space, like we've said all season, and this has to happen in this game more than ever. We've got to apply constant pressure on Dillon Gabriel and get him uncomfortable and having to throw off of timing, off platform, like looking between a guard and a tackle in an area that's not usual for him. That's going to be caused by us sending unusual blitzes. So my prediction on this game, it's a much easier pathway for Oregon, as much as it pains me. 31 Oregon, 22 or 23 UW. 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns to get 23. If UW,
what do you like on the bet? What do you like on the betting?
I got UW covering, but the Penn State game sits in the back of my mind and has me worried about it.
Okay.
Because how much of the, I don't know how much of the outcome in that game changes if DeMond Williams is starting. So that just has me concerned. It can't start out terrible. You have to, it can't,
get behind the ball,
21-3 in the first half or whatever it was. Yeah.
Izzo, I think one thing too you said I think is really good. I know this isn't part of our breakdowns prediction part, but we will have to go for a couple. Like if we're in this game, well, it'll be because we've probably converted some fourth downs too on offense.
Probably, yeah.
Agreed.
Like you just have to get additional possessions, man, to beat this team.
Yep.
So Izzo, if the Huskies do walk the path though, and they are in it, and they do win it, what would you see that kind of score looking like?
Dude, Mikey's not letting you get off, baby. Let me hear it.
This is important because the pathway, I'll tell you what, if we win it, this is what people are going to come back to, especially if we're correct.
Yeah, I will say that if we win, it's not going to be a low scoring, like as low scoring as you think it is. It's going to be because DeMond Williams is the next Husky Jesus.
The Messiah.
He's the next Husky dude. And it's it's because he is the absolute truth and the next Kyler Murray, like we titled our last video.
Holy.
Yeah, I would say
exactly.
If UW's going to win this game, it's going to be like, last minute type of situation.
Like 35-31 or something like that?
31-28 type of situation.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? That would be fun, and that would be on some instant classic.
Oh, bro, I know Uncle Nono's going streaky.
Yeah, it would be insane. For me, it's pretty simple. It's having to bet all your chips on a freshman quarterback 8 times out of 10 just doesn't work out. And so if I'm just looking at it like that, we talked about the pathways, and I agree with all of them, the pressure, making sure the defense can keep this a low-scoring game. I think likely the score is going to end up being 34-17 Oregon. I think UW does cover, but barely. I think Oregon just has a little bit too much, and they really, really, really want it. And they're going to have to, UW is going to have to probably play definitely their best game of the season to win. And they just haven't done it on the road yet. So for me to be like, I'm willing to bet on something that I know they haven't done yet, that's just a lot to do. Now, if they follow that pathway and they do figure out a way to make this a low-scoring game, I think it's going to be super low because I know the weather's supposed to be okay. It's just going to be cold. But I could see this game playing out if UW was to win it 24-16 in a low-scoring game and you might get a real late touchdown. And that's how I could see UW winning that game.
Damn.
Now, all right. So before we
Mm-hmm.
get out of here, Izzo, this was a big week in recruiting. What can you tell us? I got a question for you guys. Have you ever wanted to walk into Husky Stadium where there's 70,000 people and be the best looking person in the stadium? If you have, make sure you go to Simply Seattle, hit that QR code. Our good friends at Simply Seattle hooked this up and we look great. You see that QR code? Make sure you snap that, go check it out. Get all the Husky gear you want, plus Mariners, Sonics, Storm, all that stuff, everything at Simply Seattle.
While you're at it, be sure to check out the Dub Dub Discord community with over 2,700 members. It's the largest organized chat room for all things Washington Husky athletics. You want insider access? Our VIP membership unlocks exclusive chat rooms and rumors you won't find anywhere else. Hit the QR code on the screen and join the conversation today. Go Dogs. Thank you for everything.
You got Zach Stoskowski visiting for this game at Oregon. We're praying to hold on to that kid. The kid is an absolute beast. So, in the short term, at things that are relevant to this game, those are the two. But the tight end kid that we got today, Simmons, he's solid. He's probably not quite as an athletic of a frame as Plug, but as a consolation, it's just a slightly different type of tight end. The kid is huge. He is terribly difficult to tackle. Like, he just runs over guys. He's got great feet. I think, we have in-house scout, Juicy Jensen, in our Discord, and he was just gushing about the kid's footwork for his age and his size, 6'5", 225 pounds, easily has the frame to fit 240, 245. Him and Naoni, it's just it's a crop for tight end. Like I said, when Plug was first potentially flipping, or when he flipped, I can't remember on that episode if he had already flipped or not. And we were saying, dude, don't freak out. Like, please, at the scheme of things, like, we're going to be fine. And we absolutely are. These are two stud tight ends. And I'm not just saying that. They're going to be good. And we're not done. We're in the fight for Andrew Marsh, for Oleg Bude. These are two 4-star wide receivers. Madden Faremo has got a decision. I'm seeing a lot of, online saying like the Huskies it's really between USC and Notre Dame. That is not true. Like, straight up, it's not. And from what I'm hearing, we're right in the mix. I'm not saying we're going to land them, but the odds, I would say, I would give us better chance than USC, in my opinion. Okay. I think it's us and Notre Dame. But if you ask a USC guy, maybe you hear something different. I'll just say this. There's a couple of guys that we are trying to flip right now that would be big news.
Ooh.
There's two of them in particular. And that's all I'll say on that.
If you want to find out more,
like a flippy floppy.
If you want to find out more, go hit the QR code, join the Discord, 2,800 strong. I changed it this time. And make sure you get into that VIP room, because that's where you start seeing everything as far as what's going to happen before it's going to happen. So make sure you do that, because I'm not going to let Izzo give away his secrets, because they're way too good.
I will leave you with this. I don't think we're going to land either one of these receivers. And if you asked me 3 days ago, I would have said the most likely scenario was us getting Marsh. From what I'm hearing, it's probably unlikely. And then for Oleg Bude, the travel time is a real uphill thing, man. So I'm not holding my breath on that, but who knows what Kevin Cummings can pull. But I am going to watch these two that I won't mention because I don't want to impact any recruitments. These two kids that I'm hoping we get, that are both big names, and as well as Faremo. Closely.
Dude, one thing really quick is so if you look at 247, they have the Dogs at 29 commits. But there's been some chatter that the punter and the long snapper aren't 100%. They might one of them might end up being a walk-on.
Yeah.
Preferred walk-on. So where I was going with that is, let's just say we're right at like 27, 28, 29, whatever that number is. Do you think UW could even touch like 31, 32 in this 25 class?
Yeah. And the reason is because they don't have like the same cap. So there's I believe 100 or 105 scholarships that are allotted. Something to keep in mind is
Jedd Fisch came out today
yeah.
and literally said that, like, I think he said 28.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that they're honestly they're probably not going to fill all their scholarship spots. They're if they do, they won't. They maybe not all of these guys are on NIL deals and biting a piece of that budget, what have you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Like we can take as many as we want to. We can take 34, or whatever, not within reason. But we're not going to run out of scholarship spots. So they could technically, that's why we're staring down the barrel of 6, 7 offensive linemen in this class.
Yeah, well, apparently Jedd Fisch said that he's going to sit down with everybody and do a whole evaluation. So he's expecting like 10 to 12 guys to leave in the portal.
Yeah.
He's expecting like the numbers to balance out. But from what he said, because I don't know if you guys watched this press conference, but he laid out kind of his plan. And it's one of the things I've noticed all year where he's talked about this year like it was a building year, like where he's feeling everything out, seeing what he has, and really building for next year and the year following. And he made it very apparent that he's building this through the trenches, through offensive and defensive line.
Yeah.
He's got to get size. And
I think you have to build your team, especially in the Big Ten, that way, man.
Yep.
You can't.
Even if you take out Staskowski and you just look at the class, like go and look at the heights and weights of the offensive linemen.
They're huge.
They're talking what they're they're walking the walk. So
taking all three of the guys that committed this week were over 300 pounds.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk Staskowski, and he's an absolute dog. But I mean, dude, that Jack Schaefer kid out of Bismarck.
Oh yeah,
Dakota, that dude's a Mack truck, man.
Absolutely, it's a absolute blessing if you can get both Staskowski and Schaefer, and those are your tackles. Like that means that your offensive line potentially from this class, you literally have 5 potential starters moving forward. Like not starting right away, but like for the future with Staskowski at left tackle, Schaefer at right, Champ at left guard, Coleman Brusa, and then one more. There's another spot with either like Langy or Flores and potentially one more.
I like what they're doing. All right. I think that's it. We have anything else we want to get into?
No, let's wrap it.
All right. Like I said, hopefully next week we're talking about a UW victory and how great we're feeling about Damon Williams. But regardless, we're going to be here no matter what. You can always count on Dub. So for my guys, Izzo and Noah, I'm Mike Flaunt. This is the Dub Podcast. Go Dogs.